Look at this show for 5 seconds, and your brain immediately tries to dismiss it. The character designs are grotesque, the colors are muddy, the main kid is loud, sticky, and completely oblivious, and half the episodes revolve around playing in the dirt or collecting arcade tokens. On the surface, Clarence looks like everything modern animation tried to leave behind. A random, lowbrow cartoon about 3 weird kids doing ridiculous things in an ugly town called Aberdale. But if you sit with it long enough, a quiet, uncomfortable realization starts to sink in. We didn't dismiss Clarence because it was stupid. We dismissed it because it was honest. Kids don't experience the world through epic lore, cosmetic prophecies, or tight, logical narrative arcs. They experience it through the dirt under their fingernails, the heat of the asphalt parking lot, and the absolute, unvarnished mess of being alive. I used to look past Clarence as a character because I thought his happiness was just stupidity. Then I actually started watching the show, how he treats the world around him. Look at the social hierarchy of Aberdale Elementary. You have the popular kids, the rich kids, the weird outcasts, the bullies, and the kids who sit alone on the bench every single recess. Children are naturally ruthless at constructing status ranks, but Clarence completely ignores the hierarchy. He doesn't ask, "Are you cool?" He asks, "Do you want to play?" He notices when someone is excluded, not because he wants a reward for being nice, but because he understands something profoundly simple. Being alone sucks. He would rather embarrass himself, ruin his own reputation, and look like an absolute fool if it means other kids doesn't have to sit by themselves. His superpower isn't intelligence or strength, it's making people feel like they belong. In a world that constantly teaches kids to label or write each other off, Clarence sees the good in people that everyone else has already abandoned. Look at how he interacts with Belson, a bitter, cynical, wealthy kid who spends half the screen time actively trying to ruin Clarence's life. Anybody else would cut Belson out. Clarence doesn't. Clarence doesn't just tolerate him. He constantly gives him space to show who he actually is underneath defense mechanisms. He doesn't write people off because they're weird, annoying, or mean. He approaches every human being without a trace of cynicalism. Adults call that naive, but there is a massive difference between being unintelligent and refusing to assume the worst about people. Clarence constantly asks the one question, why not? And this leads to what might be Clarence's most radical trait. He's completely, utterly comfortable in his own skin. Look at how much energy the average person spends constructing an image of themselves. We curate our personalities, worrying about looking weird, and perform for an invisible audience before we can even leave the house. Clarence has no interest in looking cool. He's loud, emotional, messy, and deeply embarrassing, and he genuinely doesn't care. He has something that almost every teenager and adult slowly surrenders to: social pressure. The absolute freedom of unself-consciousness existence. He isn't trying to build a brand or prove his worth to anyone. He just exists. Because he isn't trapped in his own head worrying about status, Clarence possesses a lens for reality that most of us lost years ago. He finds the absolute overwhelmingly meaning in the complete mundane. Going to a grocery store while his mom shops becomes a high-stakes survival mission. Finding a lost dollar bill in the grass becomes a legendary quest. A soggy cardboard box on the curb isn't trash, it's a spaceship. We spend so much of our adult lives convincing ourselves that we need a better job, a bigger house, or a new city to finally feel fulfilled. Clarence proves you don't need a different life. You just need to see the one you already have through eyes that haven't been deaded by routine. Look at the dynamic between Clarence, Jeff, and Sumo. They couldn't be more different. Jeff is neurotic, obsessed with rules, and terrified of germs. Sumo is wild, chaotic, and raised in an impoverished, overcrowded house. Clarence is the gravitational pull that holds them together, but the show never hides the reality of the world. Aberdale isn't a fantasy kingdom. It's full of divorce, financial stress, social pressure, and loneliness. Yet Clarence's optimism isn't a delusion born from a perfect life. It's a choice to not let bad things define the world. Modern culture constantly screams at kids to hurry up, grow up, be productive, prepare for your future. Clarence stands in direct opposition to that entire machine, reminding you that childhood was never meant to be productive. You were allowed to waste an afternoon doing nothing. You were allowed to be stupid. When you watch Clarence as a kid, you laugh because it was silly. When you watch it as you get older, a quiet, heavy lump forms in your throat. You realize you weren't watching a cartoon anymore. You're looking into a mirror of a version of yourself that died a long time ago. You remember when your neighborhood felt infinite. You remember when a summer afternoon felt like it lasted 3 years. You remember when your friends were your entire universe, and you didn't know how that one day you'd log off, step away from the curb, or move out of the neighborhood, and it would be the last time you played together. When you were living through those Tuesdays, you didn't know you were living through your childhood. You just thought you were playing in the dirt. Clarence isn't the greatest cartoon ever because it had the highest stakes, the most complex lore, or the sharpest animation. It's the greatest because it understood a truth that every show was too busy to notice. Being a kid was never about accomplishing anything. It was about experiencing everything. Clarence lives completely inside the present moment, oblivious to the fact that the playground is going to get smaller, the friends are going to drift away, and the streetlights are eventually going to shut off for good. You don't miss the show. You miss the person you were back when a cardboard box was still a spaceship. And when you look at Clarence, you realize that a version of you is still sitting out there in the yard, waiting for you to come back out and play.